Okay, I think we are live now. Hi everyone, good evening. This is Dr. Harish from Baby's Castle. I'm a physiotherapist and an aquatic therapist, and also I'm associated with Baby's Castle as a director of operations. And I hope you all are doing good, safe, and sound at your home. And basically, we all know we have started this live series, and we have a lot of experts who are being a part of this series. The whole idea of this series was to help a lot of parents and other people. Okay, I think I'll just add Dr. Okay, we will just wait till Dr. Franzina gets added. Hi, Dr. Franzina. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. I was just going through the intro. So basically, since we all know we have started this live series, and the whole idea was because parents are cut off from one-to-one, sessions with the therapist, and there is no contact programs. I mean, one-to-one interaction right now. And so we thought many parents would definitely face lot of problems. So the whole idea of this series was to have experts from different specialities and do these live series of talks. And if we can address, in commonly and give certain suggestions and tips to the parents to cope up this lockdown. So today is the sixth live session, and we have Dr. Franzina. He's a very senior, very expert, and very, very well known in field of occupational therapy when it comes to childcare and development. So thank you, Dr. Franzina, for accepting my invite. And you are here for today's session, and it's a privilege and pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this session a lot. Yeah, and I hope we can help the parents out there right here.
Right, right. So, ma'am, basically, how do we go about it? I have prepared certain questions which we felt, would be helpful for many parents in general. And there are certain questions where many parents had requested to address that. So I
Sure.
have around 10 to 12 questions with me where I will put it across to you, and you can put your expertise opinion for that. And we will wait if there is any pop-up questions online. If anyone wants to address, we can do it.
Sounds
All
good.
right, so go ahead with that. So the first question for you, doctor, the lockdown phase has definitely caused a lot of anxiety and tension, even for adults like us. How do you think it's going to impact our children?
So I think it's interesting because one of the reasons why all of us are anxious and stressed out right now is because we don't know what to expect, right?
Right,
There's no concrete or firm understanding and knowledge as to what the next thing is, how long this is going to be, how many people are going to be affected. And I think this is a good example when you translate it to your children. A child who doesn't have structure or who doesn't have a routine is going to be fairly disorganized and anxious, and also pick up on the anxiety and stress around them. So, two things I think that need to be addressed. One, and very subconsciously, letting out there into their environment. And number two, they expect a routine or a structure. So I think that's something that we need to discuss a little more and talk about how we could do that.
right, right, right. So basically, do you think we all need to restructure? I understand even in this phase, we don't have much to do. And I definitely agree that if we can just restructure everything and just balance out everything would be a good idea to start off.
Yeah, so
That's true.
I'm going to say two things again over here. I think moms who don't have house help are struggling
Right,
tremendously. I
right,
have twin 5-year-olds, and I'm lucky to have help. But it's still being at home, trying to homeschool them, trying to get things completed. In addition to working with 50% of my staff capacity right now. Um,
right,
so I'm sure that parents who are either working from home or don't have help to face difficulties, and also handling your kid 100% of the time is going to be hard as well. So yeah, in terms of structure, I think it's something that you need to work on for a few days, and once you
right.
have it down, either by yourself or with the help of a therapist, your
Therapist.
therapist who can help you with a home program. You should be in a much better place in terms of decreasing your anxiety and helping your child perform better every day.
Right, right. I agree to that. I agree to that. So let's go to the second question. And so it's a carry on, basically carry over of the first. So what is the best way to engage them during this
So,
phase?
so I think, so I'm a therapist with close to 20 years
Right,
of experience.
right,
And for me, it was a learning process too, because I was dealing with my own stress as a parent, as a wife whose husband is on the front line dealing with this on an everyday basis. And simultaneously, I was trying to keep a facade for my kids as well at home, right? So I think a lot
right,
of parents are in this position, and it took me a while to get out of my slump. It took me a while to figure out what worked best for me and for my kids. And I think one of the key things that worked for me is keeping a diary
right,
where I said, okay, the kids wake up at 8:30, they're going to do this by 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9 this is going to be done, 10 o'clock this is what's happening. I did this for 4 to 5 days, and I tweaked it and figured out what worked best for my kids as well as me.
right.
um, and I strongly recommend that all parents out there do the same, because it helps you understand what's working and what isn't, and
Right,
helps you make a few changes, without and it's an easy way to record basically and figure out what
right,
needs to be
right.
done.
Correct, correct. I agree to that. So the third question, ma'am. Okay, so this is related to children who fall into category of severe side of sensory problems. So any
Right.
guidelines or recommendations do you want to give to parents? I'm sure they would be facing a lot, considering the children have a lot of issues.
Right. So, given that we have a lockdown, I think one of the biggest things that all of our kids with sensory difficulties are facing right now is the inability to expend that energy if they are hyperactive or need proprioceptive or vestibular input, right?
Correct.
Um, so, if your child is not allowed to interact within their environment sufficiently, they're going to be more disorganized. You're going to have more tantrums. You're going to have more meltdowns because of that.
Right.
So my advice would be to incorporate heavy work into your diet, into your sensory diet at home. I'll give you one example. So I've been
Yes.
doing telehealth for 2 weeks now, and we've been doing home programs for quite a few of the parents here actually. Um,
Right.
so so what we do is we list down all the things that the child is doing, and the mom may say, I don't have time. I'm washing dishes, I'm cooking. I have to see that everybody's served, and I wash dishes again, and it goes on and on. So one of
Right.
the things this is a basic example that I'm giving you here that I came up with is this particular child was constipated for 3 days, right?
Right.
And we know that interoception, which is one of the sensory systems that deals with feeling the way things move in our stomach and helping us with bladder and bowel control was affected. So what I suggested to her was, as she washes the dishes, you put it in a basket on the floor, let
Right.
the child wipe the dish, and give it back to you standing up. Okay, so as a
Right.
result of this, what happened is the child was doing squats. He was working his abs. He was getting the feedback that he needed. And the mom saw
Right.
in 2 days he was fairly regular. So it was like an immediate
Fabulous.
response to something that was a problem. And it's a very
Right.
basic example of how, a therapist can help tweak that home program effectively if it's done right.
Right, right. No, I think that's a very practical and very, a very creative way to get children to work, because this is something the therapy is also happening, and they are also learning this life skills, which will help
Right.
them in their future. So I think the whole
Absolutely.
idea should be to blend this whole environment what we have and work with the available resources. So
Right.
that was
So,
very, very good, Doctor.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, like doing bear pose, doing crab pose, all of this is great with slightly older kids. But when you
Right,
have kids who are bored of the normal
right.
physical thing, you have to figure out ways. Like we had a home program, we had a telehealth session actually where we had the entire session with a sheet of paper and with
Okay,
plastic bottles. We did a 45
okay.
minute session just working with that and creating an effective
Right.
intervention for them. So it's
That's
possible.
amazing.
It just needs to be tweaked and worked around that way, because your kid is going to
Right.
get bored.
Exactly, exactly. All right, doctor, that was wonderful. So, the next question. Many parents are fearful at this stage because the lockdown is going to be so unpredictable. We don't know when we are going to step out. So
Right.
the fear is about the children may lose onto their existing progress, which was achieved by therapies before this lockdown phase started. And now with no professional help available or very limited resources, what do you recommend? What should be their focus right now?
So I really, and again, I know what good work therapists can do, and that's not me
Exactly.
as a person, but the community as a whole.
Right.
And I know that everybody is gotten so good using technology in such a short period of time. My team has been amazing. They've been on Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp, doing a whole bunch of interventions. I really,
Right.
really think you need to transition towards teletherapy. If you were doing sessions twice a week, I suggest getting a plan for the week, checking
Right.
in with your therapist, having an Excel sheet created, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and WhatsApping, figuring out, I'm not saying all hours of the day, but I'm sure something can be done where we are figuring out what works and what doesn't and helping the child, in that way.
Right. Right, right. No, I agree to that because that was the whole idea. Like, at least the child should not regress. At least whatever was achieved, we should maintain that, for a
Right,
couple of months till we step out. And
right,
definitely technology has its role. There are pros and cons, but at least it will make sure that the communication is on with the therapist and at least
correct.
some sort of basic intervention to at least maintain the child. That should be the whole idea. And
Yeah,
if the child can achieve progress, that's a bonus, with whatever
absolutely.
parents are able to do with their resources available.
Absolutely. So I've seen interesting positive outcomes happen because of the lockdown, where parents have been working much
Okay.
closer with their kids, with
Right,
support from the
right,
therapist.
right,
And they're working more on fine motor skills, on their sensory things, and they need a little guidance for it. In the more profoundly affected group, I think the hand holding will be a little more, and
right.
that's definitely where you're going to need your therapist to be, on the ball, doing as much as they can to help. But parents
Exactly.
are want only what's best for their children. So I'm sure that at the
Right.
end of the day, it's going to be a good mix between the two groups. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's hope for the best. Okay. So, ma'am, the next question is children who have started to show signs of aggression. Now, the whole
Right,
is completely changed and
right.
they are being more irritable. And even we all know we can't step out of the home. We can't take them for drive, we can't take them for walk. So, how do we address such concerns where, there is a rising change in behavior?
So I want to point out that this is, whether it's children, whether it's us cooped up in the house, that's going to happen to all of us.
Right,
Unfortunately, with kids who have kids kids per se, and definitely kids who have sensory needs, if their sensory needs are not being met, like I said earlier, you're going to have they're going to be more upset quicker, their impulse control is going to be affected, sitting tolerance, frustration is going to be affected. So what I really, really want to go back to is creating that structure. The parent
right,
has to implement the routine.
right,
I think
right,
one of the parents' best friends right now is a visual schedule, because this will allow the child to anticipate what's coming next,
right,
and they can cut it off. But in terms of the irritability and being unhappy, it's possible that their sensory needs are not being met, right? So we probably
right.
need to add something. It could be increasing it could be, I'm not saying that this is a given for all children,
Correct,
but it
correct.
could be that they need to wear the weighted vest longer, or they need to be, doing some kind of, cleaning of the windows to get heavy joint compression through their upper body, or playing a game like stomping bugs to get more weight through their lower body. It could be a combination of
Right,
any of these things, and it will depend on, where the child's coming from and what the possible issues are. But very often it's when the sensory needs are not being met, you have children who get upset, and it becomes a vicious cycle,
right.
especially if they're not getting enough sleep at night, right? So
Exactly, exactly.
it's it's a catch 22. They need to be
Right,
fatigued enough to sleep, so for that they need heavy work. So
right. I
yeah, we
agree
need
with
to work with things in the house.
that. There are a few questions which have popped up. Would you like to address them?
Sure.
One is
Yeah.
by Mr. Sandeep. So the question is, does the online portals of sessions is going to help our child because we do not have necessary equipment at our home available. How do we proceed is the question.
Right. So typically, our sessions last about 45 minutes. And if
Right.
your child has fair sitting tolerance, fair, I'm not even saying moderate, we can, number one, create a plan where the child is interacting and the parent is interacting with the therapist and getting feedback, like helping with the plan or whatever. But we have
Correct.
very successfully been doing one-on-one sessions with kids. And like I said, we did a 45-minute session with a sheet of paper, just a sheet of
Right.
paper, and the parent didn't have a ball, so we used socks as a ball, and we
Right.
worked with it. We were able to conduct a session. So I think a creative therapist can create a session for you, and with a little
Correct.
prep. So it's different from what's normal. With a little prep, we can create something that's meaningful for both the child as well as the parent, and help the
Fair.
child for sure.
Right. Right. I think that should address their query. So there is a second question which has popped up. So it's a very general question, doctor. Some suggestions on giving therapy to an autistic child or autistic kid is the question.
Okay, so again, I'm going to give very general answers here because
Yes.
all of the
Yes.
kids on the spectrum are at such different levels, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, so number one, try and have a very structured visual schedule. You want to have not more than 3 to 4 things on the schedule at one time so they have a sense of accomplishment. It could be brushing teeth, it could be eating breakfast, it could be free play. Like these 3 things, as soon as it's done, you cut them off and then go to the next 3 things. Okay. If
Right.
there is something the child doesn't want to do, like maybe, you want them to do heavy work, it could be an animal work, it could be something like that. You want to have a positive reinforcement after, which could be, playing with their favorite toy, but that happens only if they complete, you could say, 4 animal works, but they have
Right.
to complete it. And the parent is responsible for, very strongly enforcing this initially, because if the child thinks that they can, the parent is a pushover, they're never going to listen to them at all. So I think it's a
Right.
catch-22 where the parent also needs to establish dominance.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm not saying shout, I'm not saying hit. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just very clearly telling them, I understand you're upset, but we need to do X, Y, Z, and then you can do, this. So children very quickly adapt and are very resilient, so they learn that it's possible.
Right. Right. So we'll move to the next questions which I have, and we'll
Yes.
wait for some more questions to pop up here. I think there are already 3 questions lined up. But anyways, the next question is, parents are finding it extremely difficult to work out the sleep cycle for children. How do we address that?
So this is sort of my soapbox. So I also do counseling for sleep with children with and without disabilities. So two of the things that I want you all to keep in mind is, if your child has screen time, I believe that screen time is here to stay. I know that kids across the board are watching screens, whether it's television or mobile phones, so that's a given. But
Right.
one of the things that you can do to ensure that your child has sort of, enough sleep is, number one, they should not be watching television 2 hours before they sleep.
Okay.
Okay. There's a
Right.
lot of blue lights that's screen that causes hyperarousal and makes your child more disorganized and more hyper. So it's not
Right.
going to help anyone if you let your child watch the screen. Say if your child goes to bed at 10, I would 7 to 8, 8 o'clock is when your television ends, and you're doing free play. It could be painting, it could be singing songs, it could be dancing, it could be jumping from the top to bottom of the sofa. It could be any of those things, but no visual stimulation, because you have auditory visual through screen time, and it's not a good idea.
Right.
Night, it has to be the same. So initially it might be difficult. I know parents who keep their children awake till 2 and 3 until they are fatigued enough and go to
Right.
sleep, saying, oh, there's enough time for them to get a schedule when they're, in school or whatever. But physiologically, I'm not being judgmental here, but physiologically or biologically for them, it makes more sense to sleep at a particular time and wake at a particular time. The child is happier, he's more organized, he can perform his tasks better for the next day, and this is breaking the vicious cycle of the child being irritable and having more meltdowns as a result of it. So yeah.
Right, right. I agree to that. Very, very important point, especially the screen time.
Right.
Okay. So the next question is, okay. So again, it's about the screen time. How do you recommend the use of technology for children? Obviously, we don't want to get deprived of the technology for the children, but we want to use it in a correct way. So how do you address that? What is the right way to use?
So I, as a mom, have transitioned from no screen time at all, right, until they were 1 year old, 1.5 year old, and slowly moved towards increasing their screen time and television time as they've grown older. So for the
Right,
population in general, I would say I know that you require some amount of it, but
right,
keep two things in mind. FaceTime with family is a great way for them to interact and have some benefit from using technology. So that's a big plus. So if you
right.
have to use the screen, try to get them to video call or chat with their uncle or their cousin or whomever for some time.
Correct, correct.
Um, if they are listening to music, that's great, but no wheels of the bus going on constantly visually stimulating them,
Yeah,
or Kinder Joy, those unboxing, unpacking apps, absolutely not. What I would recommend is interactive games where they can, they have to tap something, they have to move something. Again, I would use it in moderation earlier in the day for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. There's no evidence that says having it earlier in the day is better for them, but it just makes sense because the amount of stimulation goes down as the day progresses. So
right.
you're microdosing. I like the term microdosing, where you're giving small doses of screen time to your child, and not like 3 hours at one time where they're like
Correct,
crazy by the end of it.
correct, correct. Very informative indeed. Okay. So exercise and stress management. What is your opinion on that?
So exercise and stress management for all of us adults, I think, is a great idea, right? Right now, I think a lot of the exercise that we do as therapists is some of the sensory needs they have, right? So we are either addressing the vestibular system, we are addressing the proprioceptive system. Um, so, so to me, I think it's a no-brainer. It has to be done. Um,
Right,
it might be harder in really young kids where you're trying to engage them. That's something that doesn't seem meaningful or purposeful to them.
right.
So you'd have to make it fun for them, and your therapist can help you figure out how you want to do that, because they've done this before. Um,
Right.
so I think talk to your therapist, figure out an exercise slash play session for your kid. Do a mock teletherapy thing if you need it.
Right.
So I definitely think it's a requirement, and it'll help with the lockdown, especially
Exactly.
since it's extended now, and we're probably it might go into the vacation. You never know. Like it's a possibility.
Yeah, correct. I agree.
As far as stress management is concerned, I think they go hand in hand, right? We know that having insufficient sensory needs met causes an increase in stress, causes the fight and flight reaction to kick in, causes increase in stimming. So you definitely need to go back to your therapist and get a modified plan for the house, because if
Right.
you don't, it could spiral. So
Yeah, it could backfire. Right.
so
That's
I'm a big proponent. I think that needs to be addressed for sure.
right, right, right. So there are a few questions here online. Okay. So, doctor, could you suggest some games that can double up as therapy?
So I'm selling the clinic at this point. Inspirium Holistic has a whole bunch of activities we put up on Instagram that you can check
Right,
out. They're very
right,
basic, and I've given age ranges for most of the things there. But one of the simplest things you can do is, if you have empty plastic bottles, or if you have a sock ball, like they can
right,
do bowling with it, right?
right.
You can put pillows on the floor. You can have pillows, stools, chairs, and make it like an obstacle course, and say go on top, go under, go around. Give them different instructions. You can create very simple rhymes for them, where you have two code words, which is pink and blue. If I say pink, you put your hands up. If I say blue, you keep your hands down. So these are basic things that don't require too much of equipment, that you could very easily use at home.
Correct. Correct.
Besides your normal activities of daily living, like washing the windows, washing vegetables, shelling peas, getting your kids to swab the floor, that's like really good heavy work. Dancing. These are things that can be incorporated fairly easily into your everyday
Yeah,
routine.
very true. Very true. I think that's the best way to engage the child, and it becomes like a learning skill as well as the therapy is
Exactly.
taken care of.
Exactly.
Okay, so the second question is, can you give us an example of a morning to night routine for a 3-year-old child who has sensory issues and poor pre-learning skills like attention span, sitting, or command following by a parent at home?
Okay, so again, so if number one, the parent needs to have a visual schedule set up, right? And this is going to be stick figures. You're not going to write words because your child doesn't know what you're talking about. So it could
Right,
just be a toothbrush for brushing teeth, and as soon as that's done, they cancel it out. Um,
right,
After that, you could have them, have free play where they're just roaming around, and then sit down for the breakfast. If mom or dad is in the kitchen making breakfast, they could be there. You could give them a dough ball where the child is
right,
playing with the dough ball and getting some kind of sensory feedback in their hands while the mom is making chapatis, if she is. Again, this is very generic, right? I don't know what is available and what's happening, but
correct.
I'm trying to create something that might be feasible here.
Yeah,
So after that, you could have a sit down task where you have 5 things you want your child to do. It could be, so if it's a 3-year-old, you could have you have 6 pictures of vegetables and one of fruits. You want them to pick out what is not a vegetable. So basic things like that, you could do it with real fruits and vegetables. You could have 5, like potato, onion, carrot, whatever you have in the fridge. But the idea here is, if you're doing a sit down task, you want your kid to do it for 5 minutes, for 7 minutes, and improve that sitting tolerance, because if you don't increase the time, you're not working on anything per se, right? So that's where a therapist
right,
will help you tweak it a little bit. Then after that, you could have a snack. Now, if your child has oral sensory needs, I would give them something crunchy if that's what they need, or something soft if you think that eating hard foods is not something that they like. Then you could go back to another activity, which could just be dancing before they sit down for meal time to expend some of that energy. So this is an example of like a half day that I would probably do with the kid. Um, like, and again, I mean, if we talk to the parent, if we have a better idea of what's happening, you can fill in the blanks and put things and make it more concrete. But all in all, this is what I probably think
right,
could
right. I
happen.
hope that helps for the parent who has put up that question. Okay, so the next question is, how do we help for a child who does not have speech? It's a very general question, really.
Yeah. So in terms of structure, your child will probably get more frustrated because they don't have language. We know that's always going to be an issue. Um, So what I suggest is giving them an option constantly, right? Between what you think might be the issue, and keeping very short tasks. So I'm sure the speech therapist probably also will be in a position to help you there. But if you are structuring your child's day, just try and keep the activity that you want short. Give them 2 choices and have them choose between one. And if you're using some kind of a communication device, maybe cards or whatever, that might be a way to go. Unfortunately, there's not much I can help with here, because there are so many other things we consider while creating a plan.
Correct,
So yeah.
correct. Okay, so the last question, at least what I can see, is suggestions for fine motor and gross motor activities to be practiced.
Um, so at home with no equipment, like I said, go check out the Inspirium Holistic page. We have a lot of activities we put up there.
Right,
So in terms of pre-writing skills, we do a lot of tracing in wheat or in rava for texture. So alphabet identification, developing hand strength also is something that we can do that way. Putting chana and rajma into separate bowls, and doing different types of animal walks. These are some of the basic examples of things that could be done. And yeah, so I mean, there is a list that could be provided, but again, I highly recommend that the person talk to their therapist based on what level their child is at. It can be
Correct.
tweaked a little more.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are into our last question, and we'll see. We'll wait for a couple of minutes if any questions are popping up. So, what
Sure.
is the final message in general you would want to advise from your part for the parents? In general, what should they look at?
So I think my message to you is that routine is really important for you and for your child. Create a home plan. If you can't do it with your therapist, then try and create it based on what's practical. You don't want to dedicate 3 hours a day in therapy if you know it's going to kill you, especially in the it's not worth it for you or for your child. Everybody's going to be affected. Try and keep very short goals. Try and make it very activity based, so not
Correct.
rote, not rote. Like I have one mom who's doing body parts. She's doing body parts every single day, and now she's saying the kid doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't want to do it because he's probably bored, right? So you might want to incorporate songs that talk about body parts. Surprise the kid with um, you know, other ways of doing it, putting shaving foam on different parts and asking them what it is. So there are ways to be inventive and tweak things a little bit. You need to just think outside the box or contact your therapist and figure out a plan that works well for you and for them, for the kid.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So there is one more question, which is okay. There are a few questions coming up. So, what is your view on
Okay.
self-regulation in a ADHD child?
So I think that self-regulation is great if your child can identify where they are at, as in um, how upset they are or how happy they are, or if they are all over the place. That's great. You can provide them with tools saying, if you feel like you are this, then these are 3 things you can do, and maybe put it up as a poster so they can visually go there and figure out, okay, I'm in this zone. So the zones of regulation is something that we use very commonly, and have activities below that they can use to get themselves calmer or feel better about themselves. So I
Yeah,
definitely think the zones of regulation is a good tool to use here. And
right,
it's freely
right,
available online, so you can have a look at it and write it out and color, even if you're not, if you haven't heard about it before.
right. Okay, so we move to the second last question right now. So let me see where. Okay, so a major hurdle parents come across in a lockdown is the inability to work from home and the child's routine. How can we help parents with it, as both are important to handle separate needs?
So I think again, it's important to figure out what's practical for you and work around that, because I know a lot of parents are working from home or have work that needs to be completed. So it's like with washing bartan. If that's something that you can get your child to do, it helps everyone. It gets them calmer, and it's also something that might help. That's an example of
Right,
something that could be done. Um, so in terms of balance, otherwise, finger painting, I don't know. You'll have to write down activities that possibly could help. Painting, if you don't have paints, you could try, shaving foam on the windows, tracing alphabets in it, doing words, playing with like transfer of water from one mug to the other for weights. There are a whole bunch of activities that could be done. But again, it's based on what time is available by the parent and tweaking it around that.
right, right, right.
So I think the
Okay,
therapist
so
helps there, where it's a blend of what time you have, what your child needs, and how can we best incorporate that into the schedule.
correct, correct. Okay, so the next question is, my child is too addicted to television. How many hours is okay at such a time when they are quite stuck at home?
Um, so okay. So here I'm going to say 2 things. Number one, there's some really great content available on television today where your child can learn things, right? I'm not talking about Choo Choo TV. I'm not talking about what is the other very famous YouTube channels where they're unboxing things and all that. But if you have educational shows, Netflix has a large number of them available, like storyboards, like the Magic Bus, for younger kids, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. I'm trying to think of the things that my kids have watched. There's always something new that they are learning from it, things that I would never expect. So I can't give you a good amount of time, but I would say even if it's 45 minutes to an hour, but broken up, like so if you're doing 45 minutes in the afternoon and then maybe from 7 to 8 doing another half an hour to 45 minutes, I think you're okay in kids who are older than 4.
Right.
Right? Because there you know that language development, whatever has evolved, is established, and this is just going to add to their vocabulary. It's going to add to what they already know. But as a parent, it's important that you select content. So you need to
Right.
make sure that you are picking out what's most important and what would benefit them the most.
Right. Right. So the next question is by Mr. Sandeep. What are the most important exercises for my child who has hypotonia as well as balance problems?
Hypotonia, right? Yeah, okay.
Hi-
So,
Yeah.
so one of the things I would recommend is strengthening the core, right? We know that the core is one of the key components to anything. So trying and getting your child to do as many sit to stand activities, um, and anything that's going to stabilize his shoulders and his hips is going to help you a lot. I have a mom who just sent me some pictures today who's done a great job on the floor with a marker. She's written out words and have had the child copy it on the floor. So the kid
Okay.
is on all fours and he's writing it. He's getting, proprioception and stability at the hips, stability at the shoulders, core contraction. The tone is improving. It's a great activity. I would never have suggested it until I saw her doing it. But the child's picked up fabulously and is doing really great. So I think that's an example of another activity that could be done.
Fantastic. So the next question is different ways to calm our child.
Different ways to calm a child. I'm trying to think. Again, a few things. Number one, no TV before they go to bed, right? We don't want them hyper aroused. Try and control the sweet content that they are eating. You don't want them hyper aroused because of that. You want them to have a good sleep pattern. That's going to help you the next day as well. Um, I'm trying to think what else we could do. A lot of heavy work, right? So, mom wants, you could have bottles like Pepsi bottles or whatever filled with chana, rajma, whatever, and have them, like um, make them go and carry it and put it at a particular place, stack things up for you, help you fold clothes. So, these are some of the activities that might be helpful.
Right. Right. Okay. So Nilima, the question about creating a schedule for your child. So that question was our first question when we started this session. So I think you should be able to watch that once we end this live session. So it will be available for 24 hours and probably we will download this and make it available in our YouTube as well. So, okay, right now no more questions I can see which are there. We have covered most of them. It was very informative, Doctor. And as we have decided to continue this series and we have a talk lined up next week just for our audience, so we will be specifically covering points and suggestions or advice related to sensory issues. So if there are any queries specifically related to sensory problems and how do we address it, please get in touch with Dr. Franzina. You can follow their page or you can DM us. We will forward the questions to doctor and their team, and they should be able to address that for the next talk what we have. I think there is one question. Okay, please suggest some activities and strategies to help out our kids who zone out during activities, especially with ASD or SPD cases.
So in kids who zone out, they've probably lost interest and you have to get them back. So I think some amount of vestibular stimulation is required at that point.
Right.
You could do jumping, you could do hopping on one leg if your child can do that. and get them back to a task. So your task that you've already selected for them might be too long. You might want to break it down into shorter time periods or just change the task because it's too long for them and slowly build up. Slowly
Right,
build up.
right, right. So there is a question. Can you repeat about the things available on Netflix, which was a good resource?
So I think Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is great. For older kids, the Magic School Bus. You also have uh, Puffin Rock. You have Storybots. That's great. You have the Bernstein Bears, which are characters by Dr. Seuss. They're available on YouTube free. So these are some examples of shows that I think would definitely benefit, kids across all ages. I know Peppa Pig is all the rage, and it's good for a bit, but I think transitioning to these other things also will be a good idea.
Right, right, right. Fantastic. So we are on time and we could address so many questions even online which were popped up. So that was fabulous, doctor, to keep it so much to the point, so specific and very, very informative. I think there are many therapists also who are online and I'm sure it will help them as well along with the parents who are live and who are going to share, later on. So it was great indeed, doctor. And I hope for the next session, which is lined up next week. So thank you so much.
Pleasure, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so okay. So it's okay. So that's an appreciation feedback. So thank you to all the audience who were live with us. We are going to post this offline as well in a couple of days, which will be available in the YouTube. We have again a reminder that we will have one more talk with Dr. Franzina. The dates will be put up next week. So we will be specifically covering about sensory problems and suggestions for therapies for that. So thank you so much. And I
See
conclude
you
the
next
session.
week, Harish.
Stay
Thank
safe
you.
and stay good. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye.